For every dollar that reaches Africa in aid, up to $5 are lost to corruption, according to Christian Aid. This shows the stranglehold corruption has on the world's poor, and on their struggle for a better life. Wherever there is corruption, it hits the poor first, and it hits them hardest. For example, if a family can't afford to bribe a local official to get education, health services and water, they must simply do without, leaving them with no access to services they have a right to enjoy, and little prospect of breaking the cycle of poverty. Corruption infects every level of society, from the richest countries to the poorest, most marginalised people in the world. And although corruption is easy to identify, think of theft, embezzlement, bribery, fraud, extortion, to name but a few, it's notoriously difficult to define. The UN says there can be no doubt about its effects. It undermines the stability of communities and societies, threatens the rule of law, and holds back economic and political progress. And while countries like the UK, United States and Switzerland are regarded as being relatively clean when it comes to things like winning contracts involving public money, they are far from blameless. Some banks and leading financial centres across the world offer havens for those who profit from corruption to stash their cash in ask-no-questions bank accounts. But if all those who commit corruption were locked up tomorrow, the problem would still go on. This isn't just a crime, says Christian Aid. It's a political problem. And without political solutions, it won't go away. Christian Aid is calling for all countries to sign up to and implement the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, which recognises the global nature of the problem and the need for action. One of these measures is to make governments more accountable, something which could transform the political landscape of Brazil. Christian Aid's clean sheet was a recent victory in Brazil. The campaign saw the introduction of a law which states that people who've been successfully prosecuted for corruption cannot stand for election. This could mean that 170 people cannot take up their seats as deputies and senators if a judge decides this should apply to Brazil's most recent election. In Nigeria too, communities are starting to push officials to be more open so they can end corruption on a local level themselves. At one school in Lima, northern Nigeria, children and teachers try to make the best of their new building, despite the lack of furniture, books or salaries for the staff. It should have been a success story. The school was built after community members successfully lobbied their local government in 2008. They'd been trained by Christian Aid partner, MCDF, to speak up for their village and influence local policies. But 4 months after the building was finished, it started to deteriorate. The villagers blamed corruption. Al Yusuf Usman, a spokesman for the village, described corruption as everywhere here. He explained, the government organises things that never work. They inflate the contracts, deceiving the public. But the villagers of Lima in Nigeria continue to fight for their school, calling on the government to share information about the school's budget so they could cross-check it with the building contractor. Transparency on a local and global level will prove to be a big step forward in ending corruption, and it will be all the sweeter when local communities make the demands for justice themselves.